Okay, we're going to take a minute and go line by line through this HelloName app. Now, there's a struggle here as we're making this for you. I want to provide enough detail for those of you who are not really familiar with JavaScript to help you get comfortable with it, but I also don't want to tell you things you already know. So I'm going to try to walk that line, and you're always invited to kind of skip ahead through the video if you like. So this is the index file, right? Index.html. This is sort of a standard HTML page. Lots of familiar things here. Just defining the page itself, the header, the title of the page, and of course this line here in the header of this HTML file is calling the JavaScript file. So we're specifying the location here with this source of our JavaScript file, and whenever we do that, we're going to use this type JavaScript, right, to specify that this is a JavaScript file. Now, if you had placed this JavaScript file in some sort of like subfolder, right, maybe you put them all in a folder called scripts within there, you'd need to specify that exact location. But because it's in the same folder as our index file, we just specify the file. Okay, we close the header and start the body, and now we're using labels, ID labels, a lot more as we're trying to communicate between the index file and the JavaScript file. What these labels do, these ID labels do for us, is they allow us to refer to these specific pieces of text or pieces of the page in the JavaScript file. So when we go to the JavaScript file, you'll see that I can refer to this name label section, and I can then control whatever is inside this sort of paragraph. So you'll see that I've called this name label. It says enter your name, right? And then we have basically two input interaction forms here. One is a text input, so we define the input as text, and we again give it a name and an ID. Again, this is so that we can interact with it in the JavaScript file. And of course the value is blank because we want someone to type in their name inside here. Okay, and then the second part is the button, and we give that button a name. It says press me, and again we give it we give it a value, right? So the text that's in the button, and then we give it again an ID so we can refer to it. Now this is where some of that JavaScript is coming in. We're saying that when the button is clicked, on click, we're going to call the function say hello, and that's the function that we're going to define in the JavaScript file. Okay, and then of course we close up the file. So things to look for as we go to the JavaScript file, I'm going to look at where are these IDs being called, right? Because we're defining those IDs for some purpose. I'm also going to look at what is this say hello function actually doing. So let's go to that JavaScript file. Now the beauty of JavaScript is that it's like a scripting language. So it's a really simplified programming language. It doesn't have all this extra junk in it of all kinds of files you have to keep track of. You can just get right into defining functions. So here you can say we've defined the function by saying function, say hello, open close parentheses, and then we have these curly brackets where we put all the function steps, everything that's happening, right? At the start, we're defining a new variable with this var command here. And the nice thing about JavaScript is if it's numerical or if it's text, you define it all the same. It's just you can define it just as a var, a variable. In this instance, we're creating this variable called name text, and we're setting it equal to, and we'll see this a lot in the JavaScript that we create, document.getElementById, right? We defined all those IDs, so we're choosing an element from the web page as by its ID, and in fact in this case we're pulling name text field. So and we're pulling the value of whatever that is. So I'm just going to go and remind myself which element was name text field. And I look here and it looks like, okay, name text field is where someone typed in their name, right? So this is saying that name text is going to pull the text out of that sort of empty text box where someone typed their name. So this name text, as the name implies, is giving us a string, if you will, of the person's name. All right, so that's what we just did there. We pulled that out of that entry box. So now we're going to display that name with like the word hello. So we're going to define another variable. In this case, we're calling it the display string. This is what's going to display on the screen. And we're setting that equal to, and we can just use quotes and type text right into this and sort of append things to it. So this display string is going to be hello, and then a space, and then if we want to add a variable to that, like text or values, right? We use this plus sign that kind of like joins it together. So we're going to add the name to the hello, and then add an exclamation point. So now we've defined this new variable which says hello, Mr. Johnson, exclamation point. Now lastly, we want to display that on the web page. So we're going to use this getElementById again. And in this case, what we're doing is, instead of pulling from the web page, we're sort of pushing to the web page. So we're going to say document.getElementById, and then name label. Let's just check where that is on our web page. Name label is this text at the top. So where it normally says enter your name, we're going to change what's inside these tags here, what text is displayed there. So we're saying getElementById name label dot inner HTML is saying change whatever HTML is inside there, and we're going to say instead of enter your name, it's going to say the display string, which is going to be hello, Mr. Johnson, exclamation point. So when you click the button, it calls this function, the function runs, and changes the text that's displaying on the screen. All right, I hope that's a helpful overview walking line by line. That's the sort of process you should go through on your own prior to watching these videos when you encounter a new bit of code that you're trying to make some sense out of.